Assalamu alaikum students. Today we are going to learn the third chapter from your Beehive textbook. The title of this chapter is The Little Girl. Students, in the last video we talked about the summary of the chapter. As we know that in introduction we have seen that the title of the story refers to the main character, that we will come across the little girl named Kezia. The theme of the story is the relationship between the children and their parents, and the writer Catherine Mansfield wants to tell us that children share a very important bond of love with their parents. Although when children are small, when they are young, they do not feel that their parents love them because their parents are strict and many actions of the parents seems unjustified. But as children grown up, they realize that all the acts done by their parents were beneficial for them. The parents were concerned for them, and benefit of this strictness lies a heart full of love for the children. And this bond of love between parents and their children has been highlighted through this story. Now student, before its explanation, we will discuss the about before you read. Do you feel you know your parents better now? Then, when you were much younger, perhaps you now understand the reasons for some of their actions that used to upset you earlier. Here, what the writer said us, when we are small, when we are very small, we do not know why our parents are being strict with us. But as we grow older, we become mature and we realize why they were being strict with us. And when we realize that thing, then we also realize that our parents love us so much. So, even the reader can also relate to this story. You all can also feel that when you were younger, the action your parents did, the strictness that they had towards you was for your betterment. And as you will grow older and older, you will realize that in the past, whatever acts your parents did were for your betterment, and in fact, they really love you. Second, this story about a little girl whose feelings for her father change from fear to understanding will probably find an echo in every home. Dear children, here what the writer Mansfield said to us by saying that this story is about that little girl. Now what do we mean by will probably find an echo in every home? What do you mean by this sentence? This means that all the children will feel the same way. So you all can relate to the feeling of the little girl named Kezia. Just like Kezia is full of fear towards her father, and later on she understands his behavior and feels that he was concerned and he loved her. All the children also have the same feelings towards their parents, and you can relate to Kezia's story very well. So students, by these two things before you read, we realize that what is a beautiful relationship between the parents and their children. So we'll see more about this from the chapter. Now we'll start the explanation of this chapter. Now students will start the first paragraph of this chapter. To the little girl, he was a figure to fear and avoided. Students, here, what do you mean by a figure to be feared? A person to be feared. Here students, the writer said, who is the figure to be feared here? The Kezia's father. So, he refers to Kezia's father, and the little girl is Kezia. So the opening line of the story is indicating the fear that Kezia has for her father. And as she is fearful of her father, she tries to avoid him and she tries to remain away from him. Every morning before going to work, he came into her room and gave her a casual kiss, to which she responded with "Goodbye, father." So here Kezia describe his love for her father, and her father loves for her. So every morning before going to work, Kezia's father would visit her room and give her a casual kiss. And in reply, Kezia would say goodbye to her father. So this action of Kezia's father shows his love for Kezia. But what happened in the chapter we'll see next. And there was a great sense of relief when she heard the noise of the carriage growing fainter and fainter down the long road. What do you mean by great sense of relief? Means to lessen or reduce. Here, carriages like horse cart were means of conveyance used in older times. So here, we can make out of the fear that Kezia has for her father. The writer says that when Kezia heard that her father's carriage, it means her father's car, was going away from home and he was leaving home, and the sound became fainter and fainter. That means the sound reduced. It means that the Kezia thought about her father is going away from the home. Kezia would have a sense of relaxation after that, and she would feel relieved that her father had left from the home. Now why did she feel relieved? Because she feared her father and she was afraid of him, and so she was relieved when he left home. So here the afraid of her father described for the Kezia. Next paragraph. In the evening when he came home, she stood near the staircase and heard his loud voice in the hall. In the evening, when Kezia's father come back from his work, when Kezia's father would return home, she would hear his loud voice, and this loud voice again made her afraid of him. Means again she was started to fear about her father. Bring my tea into the drawing room. Hasn't the paper come yet? Mother, go and see if my paper's out there, and bring me my slippers. Here it is the imperative described by her father. See, he is reordering. So, as Kezia's father returned home, he would start ordering all different things. He would order that tea be served to him in the drawing room. It means he ordered to her mother that please bring the tea for me in the drawing room. He wanted the newspaper. He would ask his mother to go and see if the newspaper was there outside the house, and he would ask her to get him his slipper also. So here, what Kezia's father doing? Here he was just ordering to Kezia also and her mother also. Now students will see the second paragraph. Kezia, mother would call to her, if you are a good girl, you can come down and take off father's boot. Now here, her mother calling her. Kezia's mother would call out to her and ask her to remove her father's boots. In order to make her obey, she would say that if she was a good girl, then surely she would obey her commands. Now here, her mother was also keeping her under. Slowly, the girl would slip down the stairs, more slowly still across the hall, and push open the drawing room door. What do you mean by slip down? Means come down quietly and unwillingly. So here, again we see that Kezia's fear for her father, that is why she would come down the stairs quietly and unwillingly. Why unwillingly? Because she did not want to face her father, because she feared him. By that time, he had his spectacles on and looked at her over them in a way that was terrifying to the little girl. Now just imagine Kezia's father sitting in the drawing room on a sofa, and Kezia went there in the drawing room wearing his spectacles, and he is looking at Kezia over the spectacles, her father. And now the way he looked at her, she again terrified by him. She was horrified because maybe it seemed to her that he was staring at her. So again his look, her father's look, just expressing that angriness on her. Next para. Well, Kezia, hurry up and pull off these boots and take them outside. Have you been a good girl today? Now, here her father was again ordering her and said, please Kezia, put these boots outside from the room. Kezia was reluctant in her work. She was slow in her motion because she is very terrified by her father. And so her father would tell her to hurry up and remove his boots and keep them out of the room. And then he would ask her if she had been a good girl that day. It means here same sentence also repeated by her father. Now, what is the reaction of Kezia towards her father? She terrified too much by him. So how she replied? I did not know, father. And Kezia replied that she did not know. So why? She was stammering because she was not confident. A person is not confident when he has any feelings of fear. So here she had that feeling of fear. That's why she was not give reply properly. She stammered here. She stuttered here. You do not know? If you stutter like that, mother will have to take you to the doctor. Her father said to Kezia this. He copied her. Same sentence she replied and again copied and said to Kezia. So here Kezia's father is copying her and he also stammers like she did. She says to her that if she stuttered like that, then her mother would have to take her to the doctor for a checkup, because here he did not realize that his own daughter was just fearing about him. Now para number 3. She never stuttered with other people, had quite given it up, but only with father, because then she was trying so hard to say the words properly. What do you mean by given it up? Means stop doing it. Another word also here, trying so hard, means making a lot of efforts. See here. So here the writer tells us that Kezia never stammered while she spoke to other people. It was only when she talked to her father that she lacked confidence, and that is why she tried very hard to speak properly, and that's why she stammered. What's the matter? What are you looking so wrenched about? Mother, I wish you taught this child not to appear on the brink of suicide. Here, Kezia carried my teacup back to the table carefully. Again, her father shouting on her, and we'll see what here about. Before it, words are wretched means unhappy and sad. On the brink of suicide means what here? About to commit suicide. Suicide, you know that, kill oneself. Now, Kezia's father looks at her and he feels that something is wrong with her. And he asked her why she is so unhappy. And then he tells the mother that she should teach Kezia to behave in a better way. And she should not appear as if she is so unhappy that she is about to end her life. So he wants to say that Kezia seems to be so unhappy with her life that she did not want to live any longer. She hands her his teacup and asks her to place it back on the table. Next, he was so big, his hands and his neck, especially his mouth when he yawned. Thinking about him alone was like thinking about a giant. Now here, the expression and the image of her father on her mind will see. Here this is the feelings, this is the vision that Kezia has for her father. She feels that her father was so big, he was just like a giant. And the writer says that Kezia felt that his hand and his neck and his mouth were also so huge, especially when he yawned. It seemed as if he was a huge monster. And whenever Kezia thought this about her father, she felt that she was thinking about a giant. It means Kezia was comparing her father with the giant by doing such actions from her father. So, we'll stop till here. We'll see next explanation in the next video. Thank you, students. Have a nice day.